Today we're going to be putting on air rod and an electric center stand on a budget. We already got the saddlebags off. You can see the air rod shocks that are already on here. They're worn and dusted up. And here we have the new system, TCMT. Compressor for the air rod, electric center stand, airline. I had to go to AutoZone and pick up some airline. This is 1/8 of an inch. And I also had to get the inline fuse, which this was supposed to come with it as well. It did not come with it. First thing I need to do is get the bike jacked up just enough so we can take the load off the rear end, and then we should be able to get these off. The jack I use, this is Old Faithful, Harbor Freight. This is a 3/4. I've already loosened these up. Got one here, and you got one here with a nut on the back, also 3/4. I use an adjustable wrench to get on that. And also you have one here. This is an extension bracket. We're gonna be taking that off, and it's gonna be mounted from here up to here. It lets me know that I got the shock pretty much at the correct length. Before I take this off, I'm gonna disconnect this airline, push it in, pull. Got a lock washer on the back. Hopefully all of this stuff goes back in easily. Lock washer on the front, like that, and it's off. All right, there's the bracket. We're not gonna be able to use this because we need this space for the compressor to be mounted. For comparison, this is the OEM shock, and this is the new shock. You will know when you got the bike somewhat at the right height when you're trying to mess with your rear suspension shocks, because they'll wiggle like that. All right, it's number 2. All right, second bracket. Crusted, done. But these are not gonna fit at this current height. So being that we took the previous suspension off, we're gonna have to raise the bike up a little bit so these holes spread apart. The tire goes down, or stays down, and the rear end goes up. Scratch everything I just said. Compressing this, instead of trying to jack the bike up to get these to line up, you can try to compress these if they will hold. This one's been a little stubborn. Oh, now you don't want to extend. Oh, I put it on backwards. Good job, Brandon. Now, these are still gonna have to be torqued down. But honestly, I got. Torqued. Oh, you expanded. See if I can get you to go right where I want you. Booyah! Let's go, baby. Good news is everything is going freely. Nothing's binding up, so that is beautiful. Done. That was the easy part. Where it gets confusing is where the heck we're gonna mount this. This is what introduces air into the shocks. This bracket goes around like this. You can see when that shock collapses, it's gonna get wedged against this potentially. People have extended the exhaust out. If I do that, the exhaust is not gonna line up in the back. Maybe use a zip tie through there, zip tie through here, zip tie through here. I thought about putting it behind this panel. Let's go out like that. You can see there's an ABS module here. If this was empty, we could totally just put it right here. I thought about putting it down in here, but I could not find a way to get this to fit without cutting this part of the ABS tray bracket off right here. I've been told that the saddlebag is a last resort kind of thing. I'm thinking zip tied to that bracket. The only thing that I'm worried about is not so much the weight of it, but more so the vibration, because that compressor is going to make up a lot of noise. If this works the way I have it in my head, there's a hole right here. Zip tie off of this, zip tie off of this, also here, and zip tie off of this. So I got 3 different mounting points, actually 4 if I wanted to zip tie off of. Before I lose this thought, the reason why I'm thinking about zip tying this is because when this is wrapped around the compressor, it's raising that compressor up off of this plate that much more. And that clearance is the difference in it sitting in here correctly and bumping this and not fitting. So that's why I said I wanted to zip tie it to the plate instead of using that bracket. I'm loosening up the exhaust clamp because I'm gonna slide this exhaust back just a little bit, and that's gonna allow me to move the plate away from the suspension, because right now, if I do it, it's gonna be right up on the suspension, so I gotta move this to move the mount back. Looking at this gap, you can see how there's no spacing to get that out, but there's more spacing here. So that means that this needs to come back to reduce the spacing here to increase the spacing here. So it still needs to come back anyway. We're getting there. I got the bracket loosely installed. I can slide it, pivot it, move it back. Everything's looking good so far. The problem is I can't tighten the nut down because I can't get to it from the other side. Gonna have to figure that out, but let me see if I can get this compressor loosely installed. If I can sit that maybe about right there, if I use zip ties and I prevent it from rolling and ever touching the rotor like that, if one of the zip ties fail, I'll have maybe 1 or 2 at the top and we should be good, right? The hardware that they give you, man, as far as mounting the bracket, absolute butt cheeks. They want you to mount this piece with the piece that comes off the bike, and it doesn't thread correctly. Went to Home Depot, 38 cents, got 2 of these 5/16 by 1 inch, and we're gonna replace this from this instead of using this. This new hardware, I did end up needing to cut these because if they're too tall, you can't get this bracket over them. So luckily I can just drop the exhaust down a little bit, pops in. I wasted my time with that hardware. Just getting these right here, it just works so much better. All right, join me in this chaos. You see that? Check valve. You see the little air line? Right here, check valve, dump valve. Okay, see the little line? Well, this dump valve had 2 check valves on it. Got the other check valve in my hand. And the freaking compressor did not have a check valve on it. It had this little rubber tip in here covering up the check valve. So now I'm gonna put this on the air compressor because it did not have a check valve already on it. All right, here's my line on the back is into the check valve, and then we run that wire up the back, and then we run this wire up with it actually, and then we can wire this thing in. And surprisingly, they did not leave us enough cable to go all the way to the battery. Not a surprise, I'm prepared for that, but our line back here, it is perfectly clear. I think we can start wiring this thing up. If this thing comes off of this, you are deliberately trying to do this. That ain't going nowhere. All right, day 2. Now we're gonna try to figure out this wiring. We're gonna lift this up and see why. Oh my sweet Lord. Oh. Okay. Here's what I'm trying to figure out right now. Where am I gonna mount the dump valve? Thinking about sitting it something like right here. For the relay, I'm thinking about sitting it on this ABS mount right here. That's gonna take a lot to pull that off. And this right here. It's gonna take a lot to pull that off. Right now I'm looking at how am I gonna do the air. I'm gonna run a line up here. Then there's gonna be a T-joint. These are the T-joints. This is where the air lines hook in. One is gonna go right here. So the line's gonna come from here into this end. Then it's gonna be a short end from this shock into the bottom. And then another line is gonna go up. And then there's gonna be another T-joint right here where that line's gonna hook in right there. And then this shock is gonna hook straight into this side. And then this is gonna run straight to the dump valve. So that's gonna sit by right there. So I have a little bit of a run to go right there. So now, plug that into that line. Press on the fitting. Okay, we done clipped everything. Airlines, compressor runs up, T-joint, shock, T-joint runs from here, goes under through here, T-joint right there. This shock comes up, comes loop between the fender and the frame, T-joint. And this last line from here to the dump valve. I'm glad I looked under here because what I thought was the positive was actually the freaking negative. The positive's here, the negative's here, and this kind of complicates everything. While I thought this was negative, look at that red wire, big red wire for the speaker system. Big red wire on that side. With this setup, this green wire right here, this is gonna be power, this yellow wire is gonna be ground, the white wire is gonna be to the toggle switch, and this green wire here, which is number 87, that's gonna go to the compressor. So if we test this up, it should get a click. Toggle switch, ground. Hook these together, just like that. Power. So we should hear a click. That is the simulation of pressing the toggle switch to let the air either up or down. Relay works. This, yeah, I know it looks an absolute mess, but let me show you what I got. We got ground. So compressor, it is running to the same ground as the dump valve and the relay. So this ground right here, that's the yellow for the relay and the 2 black for the dump and the compressor. It didn't make sense to run 3 separate grounds. Power here goes to the green wire on the relay. Power here from the dump valve goes here to this switch that I had to buy from AutoZone because guess what? TCMT didn't give me a freaking switch. So this is for the dump valve. This is for the compressor. This line is from the relay for the compressor. So when I switch this on, it's going to give power to the compressor. When I flip it the opposite way, it's going to give power to the dump valve. This line right here in the middle is my power. I need to put this on the accessory switch, so when you flip the switch it turns it on, so it's not just sucking power the whole time when the bike is off. But right now for testing, I'm going to just tap it straight to the battery. This line right here is coming from the relay direct to the battery. It has a fuse there. This is where the compressor gets its power from when the relay is switched to give it power. I'm not hearing it. Oh, there it is. Awesome. And if we were to save air, that would be the dump. Got everything back to where we started. Got their good old cardboard box over their wires. We got the air lines refitted. Everything works, but I have a major problem. So we're gonna let it up. You hear it? When I dump it, I have ruled out that this freaking purge valve is defective. The air comes in, but that purge valve, no matter what, it will not hold pressure. The fitting is on the right side and air is supposed to come out this side when the solenoid is activated. But it's almost like the solenoid is not fully closing. Hear it? It's just coming out, man. All right, so we got it up. It's holding pressure. I disconnected it from there, watch. That purge valve is freaking garbage. The only way I can get this thing to hold air right now is to use a brass fitting with a Schrader valve. And it holds. We're gonna need a new one of these. Yay. In the meantime, we're gonna move on to the electric stand. Power, and you got ground. And you got a toggle switch to make it all work. It's a pain. Oh my God. We got raw straight headers. We had a prior issue with the frame piece right here. Somebody before them jacked the bike up with a car stand. I took a crowbar basically and bent it back down, so everything should slide in here. Hopefully everything goes like it's supposed to. Okay, it is 100% installed. Even with the bent frame, we bent that back in place. It fits. Here's a mock-up of the wiring. Took the side panel off, took the seat off. We got that cable running through here behind the frame. I'm gonna have to zip tie it off because the belt is right here. That cable comes up behind here and then it loops through right here, and then I connect it right here. The ground goes to the ground, positive goes to the positive, and here we have the trigger. So that's up and that's down. Up. Sound like it's struggling. That's down. Let the bike down. You will have to slightly roll it backwards so it could fall on the top of the pegs. At least that's what I have in my head. Almost like I gotta help it. All right, change of plans. Being that I can't actually physically rock the bike back and forth because I'm not on it, I'm just gonna manually put them back where I want them, right there. I do have the front of the bike in a wheel chock. That is kind of messing with the suspension just a little bit. A little over an hour of cussing out everybody that ever designed a Harley Davidson and did anything with the exhaust. Yeah, screw all of them and their families, because stupid freaking exhaust clamps. I hate them. But anyway, we're beyond that. The bike right now is sitting somewhat on the stands. Remember, I got the bike in the wheel chock, so it's not gonna fully sit on the stand. It's not supposed to be with the cross pipe. We're gonna see what happens. I added more of the vibration isolator, so that should calm down the noise. And also I moved that bracket to the top, so it's sandwiching the bracket for the compressor. I can see it's actually pushing up on the exhaust a little bit. That's fine. Got my switch right here. Got all the cable kind of zip tied away. Pop it in. Oh, would you look at there? A challenger has randomly appeared. Don't worry about that. That's coming at another time. I think I figured out why this thing isn't fully going down. I'm sorry, TCMT. I'll give you guys a pass. It's not the motor this time. It is actually the heat shield. Look right there in the center. The motor is pressing up against, or at least that bar is pressing up against the heat shield. So I'm gonna pull this off and see if I can get this thing to go down further. Because I can't leave stuff alone, I had to figure this out, man. Because basically it made this whole install for nothing, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Yesterday almost ended terribly, but we ended up having a dub. Mrs. Bicasso was helping me adjust these legs. As I was adjusting them, she was hitting the button to let me know, up and down. So she was tightening the other side. I went over there and tightened it up and ended up snapping that piece of hardware off. And luckily we were able to get it out. So I went to Home Depot today and got, I guess, a zinc coated better set, M6 by 1.0 by 16 millimeters. So we're gonna install these, put a little bit of Loctite on it. Pay attention to the legs down there. Let me back up. While the bike is sitting on the stands, this is when I want to add a little bit more torque to these bolts because the weight is on it. But I over torqued it because I don't have a torque spec. So I'm gonna add a little bit of torque to this. I'm gonna tighten it down. 1, 2. That's it. That's all it needs. And up we go. I thought I was gonna have to cut this exhaust heat shield, moved it a little bit more towards this way, just snatched on it and moved it so it is in a different place. It still is gonna hit. Can't get around that. it goes down like it's supposed to. All right. Finally got a new purge valve. We're gonna get this thing installed behind this panel, and we're gonna see if we can let it up and down without manually doing it. All right, here's the old part with the straighter valve on it. I just clicked the wires and then I just bridged some new connections in. I'm gonna have to clean this up a little bit, but we got it mounted. Let's test it out. When it goes up, it should not lose pressure. And it is not, and we should be able to go down. You're gonna hear a loud. The new valve works. That's all it took. This is the first time doing it with everything working. So we're gonna see how fast it goes. All right, going up. All right, I'm gonna let the legs up. Everything's up. I'm gonna let it down. I'm gonna put the legs back down because I'm going down. A lot faster when you don't have a straighter valve on it. All right, she's sitting down. Done. Still letting out air. Yeah, that's it. Kickstand. Done. A couple of days of messing around with this freaking air rod and center stand from TCMT, a cheap kit, but if you can get the kit working, it's actually really freaking cool. I'm not gonna worry about riding this thing. The owner's coming to pick it up here shortly. Hope you learned something. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.